Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So this is my first video on Griffin's Garage. So I've been doing another channel called Griffin's Getaway for about 8 or 9 months where we travel all the way around Australia with our caravan and tow. So a lot of you might jump over from that to this channel. Yeah, so my first video on this channel is about my 24 volt power box. So it's got a 3000 watt inverter, 200 amp hour 24 volt battery setup. It's a beast of a system. I can run like 2 induction cooktops off it, air fryer, whatever I want, so it's going to be really good. Also, it'd be amazing if you could please like and subscribe to try and get this channel to grow a bit faster, because I really want to make a lot of content for this channel. So if you're keen to see how I built this setup, just stick around because I'm going to show you how. So for the first stage in our project, I had to model the whole thing up in 3D. So I used SketchUp, made sure everything was going to be laid out nicely and fit where it needs to go. Also, all the cutouts were the perfect size for all the pieces I need to put in, all the inputs and stuff. I then gave the DWG files to a family friend with a CNC machine, and he cut it all out for me so it fits together perfectly. And then I got it laid all flat out and used some PVA glue and put it only on the pieces that are going to be touching each other. Put it all together nice and quickly. So I just used some tape to kind of hold it together. You could probably use some big clamps if you want to do a really nice strong job of it. The next part of the step was to actually sand it all down and make sure it was nice and smooth, getting any dags off it, any bits of glue, etc. I then went along and painted it with some exterior black paint, the whole thing. So gave it a good coating, good couple of coats. So after giving it a good coat of the exterior paint, I then went along and sprayed it with some bed liner on the areas that are going to get wear. So I'm going to have things leaning against them, etc. So making sure it doesn't get damaged. So I used a 1K coating, but I'd recommend using something like a 2K Raptor coating for really good wear. I then got all the components and after everything was dry and started laying them out in to see where they're all going to fit. First I put in some of the accessories like the 12 volt sockets and everything before I started laying everything out properly. So I didn't film much of actually wiring everything together because I was a bit of a roll and I kind of forgot about it. But as you can see here, I'm using 32 square millimeter cable with a 35 millimeter square ring lug. So that cable is rated at 188 amps at 30 degrees, so plenty. Most of the other cables are around about 10 to 12 AWG. So to keep these batteries in place and not all around too much, I've got these 4 tie points that I've put on each side of the batteries, so down here. What I'll do is run like a little strap through those and pull it tight. So guys, to almost have this power box completed. It's been an awesome project. I've really enjoyed working on it. I've got these 2 big 200 amp hour iTech World batteries to go in now. So these batteries fit perfectly in the box. They fit like a glove. So as you can see here, I've got my main positive running to the positive terminal on this battery, and the negative connects to the positive on this one, and the negative goes up there to the shunt. This is a series configuration. So I definitely recommend you get some of these terminal covers because it's pretty dangerous to leave the terminals exposed. For instance, if like anything just falls on it across it and touches those terminals, it'll just spark up and cause a fire. Because lithium batteries release so much current, they have like really low resistance, so they just have big arcs and they can start fires pretty easily. So just make sure you cover those terminals. Generally you should really have a big fuse on your main terminal here for extra safety, but I'm not really doing that in this case. I'm just running up to the main fuse up here. Okay, so down the side of the box here is all my main switches and everything. I'll start down the bottom here is the main battery breaker. That's the on and off switch there. Here is the inverter on and off switch up here. They come up to the 240 volt outlets. We've got 2 outlets there. And then we've got all the Anderson plugs here. So this one here is the DC-DC charging input. This one is for the solar. This is just a spare 24 volt input. And this other one is I'm actually not using at the moment. That's just for later on if I wanted to upgrade it. Up here we've got our little USB sockets here with a voltage display. Another 2 12 volt sockets to power whatever I want. So I'm using the CNS WePower inverter, 3000 watts. From what I've seen is a really good reliable inverters and a really good value. So this is the DC-DC charger. So you can see 24 volt waterproof lithium charger. So it's actually fully waterproof, which is pretty good. So you've got a 16 to 36 volt input, and then the output is 29.2 volts to charge the 24 volt battery. So I'm using a Victron MP2T 7515. So this can pull up to 440 watts of panels at 24 volt. So a pretty good little unit, nice and compact, small, has a Bluetooth so you can see and program it all and see what the watt's coming in from the solar. Very good little unit. This little unit here is actually a 24 volt to 12 volt converter. So I can run 12 volt out of my the 12 volt sockets here on the side. So this unit can do up to 10 amps. You can get ones that can do up to like 50 or 60 amps if you wanted to. Okay, up the top of the box here, I've got my circuit breaker for the solar panels. So before you disconnect the battery, you need to make sure you disconnect the solar panels, because otherwise you can actually burn out the solar controller here. Because otherwise what happens is the power gets sent down to this controller, and if you shut the battery off, it gets nowhere to put the power, you can blow up the unit. So these holes I have on the side here basically just allow some airflow through the unit so it doesn't get too hot in there. Got them on both sides. And at the top, you can see I've got holes up there too, to let all the heat out from the units coming up. Also, this door just closes like that on a hinge. And you see on this side here, I've got a couple of holes here too. And I was thinking in the future I might even be able to put some fans in behind there if I really wanted to, just push some air through in. So I've got this other little flap here that I fold down. That closes up like that. And this main lid closes up on top, and that's it, and it's all nice and concealed. Nice and neat looking. Just means I can pull it in and out of the canopy easily. If I don't want it in there, I can just pull the whole unit out, put it in the garage. So for my battery system, I chose to go the iTech World 200 amp hour batteries. The reason I chose iTech is because of such good performance they have for the price, the specs and performance. So for instance, these 200 amp hour batteries have a maximum discharge current continuously of 250 amps, which means you can run up to a 3000 watt inverter from the one battery. Not many other 200 amp hour batteries in the market can do that, unless they're very expensive ones, so it's very good value for money, these batteries. You can also run these in series and parallel. A lot of the other batteries in the market, they can't be run even in parallel, but these ones can do both. So they can connect up to 4 in series, which means you can have a 48 volt battery out of these. You can also connect up to 4 in parallel, which means you can have 800 amp hours. They're very, very good batteries. Also, you don't really want to be running it at a maximum continuous current the whole time. So for instance, if you want to run a 2000 watt inverter and you only had a 150 amp continuous current battery, you'd be pretty much just running that thing like, even if you're only pulling 1800 watts out of it, the battery will be on its maximum current all the time, so the BMS in it will probably more likely to fail. So beauty about these having 250 amp BMSs, you've got a lot of headroom too. Yeah, so the reason I've decided to go 24 volts is because I'm running a 3000 watt inverter. And when you go above 2000 watts, it makes sense to actually go to a higher voltage, because the higher the voltage you have, then you have actually less amps running through your cables and stuff. So when you go, say, 3000 watts on a 12 volt system, you'll be pulling like close to 250 amps. That's a lot. Like you need really thick, at least 50 millimeter square cable. And a lot of the components, 12 volt system, are only made to handle a max 250 amps. So you're really pushing everything to its limits. And when you jump up to 24 volts, you pretty much halve all your current. So all your amps is halved. So that means you can have a lot smaller cables, you get a lot less voltage drop over distance. Just makes a lot of sense. So I can be running this inverter flat out at 3000 watts and only pull about 125 amps. That's a lot less amps than it would be if it was 12 volt. So another reason I decided to go 24 volts is because of the fusing system. Because my charging current is pretty low because I'm using 24 volt, it means I can get away with using a regular 6-way fuse box with blade fuses. So it just makes things a lot easier and neater and tidier. Because my maximum charging current from each device is going to be about 15 amps. So for instance, my MPPT charge controller from the solar panels, we're going to be putting maximum 15 amps through. And the good thing about when 24 volt system is 15 amps can be up to 440 watts of solar panels. Whereas on a 12 volt system, 15 amps would only be 220 watts of panels. If I was to try and push 440 watts through a 12 volt system, I need about 30 amps, which means you can't really use blade fuses anymore. You've got to go up to like a mini fuse or a mega fuse. So my DC-DC charger will actually be pulling about 30 to 40 amps from the alternator, but it gets converted to 24 volt, which is actually about 29.2 volts and 15 amps, because the amps get halved because the voltage doubles. So when you're running lithium phosphate batteries in series, you need to make sure that they are fully charged. So you want the state of charge to be the same on the battery before you connect them in series. That way when you charge and discharge, it'll keep them nice and balanced. Because otherwise if they're not the same state of charge when you hook them up in series, you'll have problems when you're trying to charge and discharge it. So only one of them will fully charge, or the other one will cut out before the other one's discharged, etc. So they need to be nice and balanced before you put them together. So very important. I personally actually think car batteries should actually be 24 volts from the get-go, because at this day and age, a lot of people are trying to draw more high current devices and stuff on them, and a lot of cars are getting more advanced and they have like a lot more high current drawing systems inside them. So So interestingly enough, Tesla said they're actually going to jump up to 48 volt systems now. So they're going to have a 48 volt battery instead of 12 volt like it's been around for years and years, which makes a lot of sense to me because it means you can have a lot smaller cable that saves weight, get less voltage drop over the distance of the car. Yeah, it's really makes sense. I mean, I probably would have got 48 volt system in here too, but the problem is there's not many 48 volt DC-DC chargers on the market at the moment, so it'd have to go from 12 volt from the alternator all the way to 48 volt charger battery. But you can't really get many of them at the moment. They're very expensive ones you can. 12 volt to 24 volts pretty easy to get though. Victron makes them. Also got this other unit I got from AliExpress. I'll put the link to that below. So if you're interested in making a system like this for yourself, I'm going to put a link down the bottom with all the items listed out are used, so you know what to order and you can make it yourself, put it together. Also, let me know if you're interested in buying the template for this box. Cheers for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I've got plenty more videos to come on this whole build here, including all the canopy setup up here with the 270-degree awning, everything, how I did all that. Also more to come with the power system, we'll do testing on it, stuff like that. So make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on those. Cheers, guys.